Hey, welcome to episode 691, where we're talking this week all about recalibrating your efforts. And today we're going to talk about when to do it. And the thing that keeps coming to mind for me as I think through this is the whole idea of if you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. So I'll talk about that more with Tom coming up on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning. How are you, Bob?
I'm good. I saw that you, I could see out of the corner of my eye that you enjoyed what I said. Whoa, sorry, I got some feedback going. I'm back.
Did you notice that I chose to stick around throughout your introduction?
Do I normally leave?
No, I normally leave. When you do the we usually aren't together during the introduction.
Oh, were you on there? I didn't even look down. I was trying to maintain eye contact with our viewers.
Fair enough. So. Yes, I was lost somewhere.
I like it.
Had a function that I was supposed to do that I didn't do. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, second welcome to you.
Fair enough. All right, and welcome to our audience to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each weekday morning, Bob and I gather and have a discussion around a topic. This week's topic, as Bob mentioned, is recalibrating your efforts. And today we're going to talk about when to do it. It should be an interesting discussion.
It could be.
As we go through that discussion, we would encourage you to share your thoughts and ideas, because really this is a conversation and we are looking for others' value as well. So whether you happen to be watching us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, or
LinkedIn Live, baby.
That LinkedIn Live, baby, we welcome your thoughts and ideas, as we know it'll add value to the conversation. Then at the end of the I'm sorry?
Bring them on. We want your thoughts and ideas.
Okay. Careful what you wish for. And
touche.
And at the end of the conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you, maybe today, or maybe somewhere further down the line, figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And of course, if you have a one thing that you would like to share at the end, your antidote, you're welcome to put that in the comments as well. Before we dive into our conversation, though, each morning, Bob and I share our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
So I'm celebrating something that I've had in my possession for almost 2 years and never really used effectively. And that is some software that someone who does speaking built. What? Can't hear me?
No.
What?
You said something that I've had in my life for 2 years and haven't really used effectively. And I was like, me? No.
Oh. I get it. Sorry. I was lost in my thoughts.
That's all right. I interrupted. Apologize.
You don't think I use you effectively?
I was making a joke.
It was a subtle joke. For you podcast people, he was pointing at himself and I wasn't paying attention.
Yes.
So I have this software that I was able to get at a really good price a couple years ago that helps speakers find speaking opportunities. And I've never really used it because I just didn't know how to use it. I tried it a couple times and I didn't use it correctly. And the guy who created it yesterday sent 3 videos out and said, I know a lot of people struggle with using this software. Here's how to use it. And he gave very simple, clear instructions on how to do it. And I went and I did it. And up popped 40 speaking opportunities in one of the industries I'm looking for. And I had never seen them before. So it's one of those things where I think the guy creates a great solution. And the lesson I learned from that is you can have a great solution, but if people don't figure out how to use it, it's not a great solution. And until he put those videos out yesterday, it wasn't a great solution for me. It was, I think I paid $10 a month for the last 2 years. So what's that? $120, $240. I didn't get my value in all that time. But yesterday, when I played with it, once I went through his videos, I was like, this is a gold mine. And I think that's a lesson for us because we're so wrapped up in what we do that we don't explain it to people in ways that they can actually use it for them. So it was a lesson learned and something I'm celebrating all in one today.
Steven's comments, fascinating.
Well, that's a great point, Stephen. But here's the thing. I got it at a greatly reduced price. It was like a fifth of the cost because I knew someone who had a special code when they launched it. And I knew that it had value. It was always the challenge was me being able to figure it out. And I knew it wasn't with the software. It wasn't with the information that was available. It was just me finding the time and getting comfortable enough to say, here's how to use it.
Sure. And it was getting the feedback, getting the, and I think that all of us, we probably go and look, have signed up for something that we pay for on a regular basis that we don't use as often as we like. I know that somehow I signed up for Netflix and I don't use it. My kids.
You don't use Netflix? Oh, I use Netflix all the time.
I don't. My children and I think some other people.
12 of their friends that they know from college that have the password.
Correct. All use it. So they're enjoying it. So I guess there's value from it. I use it occasionally, but it's just as interesting. No, I think that's, well, again, until we take the time to leverage it.
Right.
That's the piece of it is that, and now because you got some assistance, I think it's a good thing is, just because we get stuck. And really, that's where you were at, right? You were stuck, uncertain, and frustrated. It wasn't like an ongoing thing. It was just a thing you knew that, I'm sure there's another.
Play with it once every 4 or 5 weeks and get frustrated and then be like, I'll come back to it. Yeah.
And finally, they helped you identify the pain or the opportunity that you could be leveraging. It's a great, reason that there's so many other things outside of us if we only open up and are willing to accept or to go out and seek the support that is out there.
I want to respond to one of Stephen's other comments. He says, it sounds like you're running a charity. In some ways, I think that's a valid comment. But at the same time, I would say that I knew there was value there. I just didn't find the time or the way to make it manifest. And I think we do that all the time. For all you know, Tom, there are 4 great documentaries about baseball on Netflix that would really be valuable to you. Or there's a story about a lacrosse player or something,
sure,
and you haven't explored it. And I think so often we buy solutions in that moment of problem, and we don't take the time to fully explore the opportunity that they provide. So I don't think I was running a charity. I think I was just not fully embracing the opportunity with that software. I didn't reach out to the owner of the company and say, hey, do you have any training videos? Hey, what am I doing wrong? I didn't go to their Facebook group and ask other people, how are you using this effectively?
Sure.
So some of this is on me, but certainly if the company makes it easier for us, if they help us get from that point of pain, as you said, to that point where we're actually achieving what we want, then they become really valuable. That cost, I think it's like $10 a month. I don't think that's a cost that I'm going to be bothered by going forward because I see the great value.
Yes. Well, that's a good celebration. I think it's a good reminder that sometimes we have things that we never know. You purchased something that you didn't know, you didn't leverage at the moment, yet you still have that resource. And now there's the opportunity. And so even if you identify in the next week because of this new technique, a speaking opportunity that gets you $10,000,
right,
that has made it worth all the while. And I think sometimes we put the onus on others to help us figure out rather than us saying, hey, I have this. How could I use it differently? Maybe I ought to ask somebody to help me figure it out.
And that's probably the ultimate lesson there for me is I should have sought help sooner because, as you know, Tom, there are 2 industries I'm focusing on. The one that I said I wasn't spending much time with, this is where this really I found 40 opportunities within that industry in 6 minutes.
Yeah. And now you shared it with others. So maybe they'll think about doing the same thing.
Correct. If someone wants to know the software, let me know, and I will tell you. I know ways. I know people. So with that, Tom, what are you celebrating today?
So I'm celebrating that yesterday, I think it was yesterday, maybe it was 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday. I just decided that, you know what, because you had been talking about getting in front of more people. That was one of the reasons things you had shared that you wanted to do. Whether you shared that
Tom, are you going to do what we talked about? Are you going to be one of those guys out on the street corner spinning the arrows that point us towards the mattress store?
That was one of the things I considered. And then I
because I saw your dance
my
moves.
thinking.
You really had it going on. You could spin it. Yeah.
I recalibrated my thinking. And
Okay.
another consideration that I thought
would pay good money to see that.
Would be more. Really? How much? Might be worth me going and doing it.
I don't know. After you got me to try to dunk a basketball a couple of years ago, I think you owe me one.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Anyhow, so I chose that I was going to reach out to more people. And my goal right now is to reach out to 10 people that I haven't connected with in a while. And I sort of took
over what time period?
In a day.
Okay.
10 people a day.
You didn't say in a day. You just said 10 people. Yeah.
And
that's aggressive.
Well, and what I decided was that it was going to be people that I knew. Going to that sense that I think that there's a lot of people that we know that we could connect with. And my intent, because I think we talked about this off camera the other day, was just to reconnect and see where they were at and see what was going on. And so there was someone who I who had a conversation with, submitted a proposal to in August, I believe. And I just had never heard back. And so my assumption at the time was, well, I guess they selected somebody else because I knew they were interviewing other people. And so I said, you know what, I'm just going to reach out and I'm not going to mention the proposal at all or the process of it. I actually went the other route and I said, hey, I was just going through my emails and calendar and saw our appointment. And I just wanted to reach out. I assume by now you've already selected someone. And I just wanted to see how it was going and just to check in. You know, I said, because I enjoyed our conversation and you've got an interesting organization. So I just wanted to learn a little bit more. And as it turns out, the person's been so busy that they have not yet made a decision. They, which again is all the more reason that they were, I think, seeking help in the past. Yeah. And it just got busy and haven't been able to figure out. Interesting. I think it was August. So it was kind of the summer when things were quiet and they're like, oh, let's do this. Kind of like I purchased a software and thought it would be great. And then things got busy and you sort of move on. And so he actually replied yesterday, which was great. And said, actually, no, we haven't done it yet. I've been so busy doing other things. He said that we are still interested. And is it okay if I get back to you in a couple of weeks? And I said, absolutely. I said, good luck with the things that you're working on. And, you know, that would be happy to reconnect in a couple of weeks. So,
well, I think that idea, just to highlight it, I think it's a great celebration, but it's also another tip to stay in touch with people.
Yeah.
You don't know. And so often I think we're like, you know, oh, that person didn't buy from me or that person didn't hire me. And I've reached out a couple of times when I've been in situations for work where it's like they went in another direction. And a couple months later, you call and say, hey, how's it going? Just wanted to see how things were. Person's like, oh, you know, this person's really great. I wanted to introduce you because I think there's something you do that we're missing. There's a lot. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of opportunity within our existing network. I think it's great that you're testing it. And I'd love to see if there's a way for you to track it so that we can see, so you can prove it out to us. Because I think it's anecdotal now. And I'd be curious if you could put it in buckets. You know, the bucket of they don't really care, the bucket of they're really happy to talk to me, and the bucket that there's an opportunity.
I've already created that.
I'm not surprised.
That was one thing that I was not going to do is just randomly do it and then And because and a lot of it had to do with the person who reached out to me the other day, who I knew, who actually I had been talking to on a regular basis. And they finally were like, we need to move forward and do something differently. And the whole idea of maybe I need to just tweak something up and do it a little bit different. So anyhow, great segue too. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about recalibrating our efforts. And
I think we have been inadvertently or indirectly for the last 14 minutes.
I would sort of agree, and when to do it. So do you have additional thoughts, Bob, you'd like to share?
I do. It's funny how this program today has just sort of moved into its own direction, but still the direction that we thought we were going in. I think one of the things is it's never too late and it's never too early to recalibrate. I really think that there are times when you get a sense. There have been times where I've sensed something like right away and I haven't dealt with it. I've let it go and it sort of festers. And there are times when I've gone too long and I've jumped too fast. And I don't have a hard and fast rule right here where it's like, well, if it's this, wait 3 days. If it's this, wait 13 months. If it's this, wait 3 years. I don't think they're hard and fast rules. I think a lot of it's just gut feel and getting a sense. And I was thinking last night about recalibrating things just in general, and it occurred to me that so much of this is really at the gut level. There isn't a matrix that you can order online that says, if this happens, recalibrate and go in this direction. And I think that's the part of it that is most frustrating and most potentially damaging, and what causes us not to take action is the fear of, well, what if I do it too soon? What if I do it too late? And the example I always think of is people are always like, well, how long should I have a new employee? When do I figure out if this new employee is actually going to work or not? I was with someone last week who said, yeah, I can usually tell within the first 3 hours of them working with me if they're going to work out or not. I'm like, really? How soon do you act? Oh, I've let people go at lunchtime. Wow, really? And this is like a white collar job. I mean, like this is not an Amazon warehouse position where you either get things done in 15 seconds or not. This is a pretty skilled college degree kind of job. And this person just had a hair trigger and they're like, I have a great team that's around me because we don't suffer the people that don't fit. And I said, well, can I push back a little bit? And the woman said, sure. And I said, what if you brought on a whole bunch of mini-me's and you're all thinking the same way? And that's what you're really hiring for, is people that think just like you. And this person who might think differently might cause you to go in a direction that might make things easier or more effective or faster or whatever. And you're not allowing for that. And she said, wow. You've coached people on this before, haven't you? I think, yes, I have. And she said, but what if this person wants to change our processes? And I said, can they do it alone? No. Okay, then have the discussion. The best thing was, she said, you've just made me think I might have pulled the trigger too quick on 10 or 12 people in the last 3 years. Think about that. Think about that from a employer perspective, where you're struggling these days to find great employees that are committed. And this might have been 12 times the person that comes in and says, I know a better way to do spreadsheets, or I know a way to cut the presentation slides from 27 to 12. And because it didn't fit this person's model for how the organization ran, it wasn't it. So I think when we recalibrate, we can jump too quick. We can also recalibrate for things that are in our heads, not in reality.
Well, I think one of the things about I'm glad that you pushed back. I was going to ask if you did, because I think that you could say that phrase, well, what if they changed our process? And you then said, which I think was an appropriate way to go. I think the other question would be, well, what if they did?
Right.
More as a statement. And what if it was the exact change that your organization needed, and you'll never find it because you're never bringing in people who are questioning. They're just all doing,
Right.
they're all doing the exact same thing. And I, not to, and this is not around this person, that I just wonder if that's true leadership, or is that just, let me go find an exact replica, plug them in, plug and play, and move forward.
Well,
It's
it's the
almost,
safest path, right?
well, I guess it could be. It's the safest path for
That person,
and
no
that
change. They
right.
know what they're dealing with. Everything fits in the box. Sooner or later, the box is going to get too small, or it's going to get crumpled by pressures outside pushing on it. But in the short term, it works. And this was a successful company. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they were bankrupt or anything. It was just very clear from this, this was a pretty high level, like VP level person, that this was a culture in this company that change was not going to come quickly or easily.
Well, and I think that's the thing, the other part of your thoughts was the word, and I think it's a judgment word, too soon, too much, not soon, all of those things, too soon or too late.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for whom? Isn't it that what's for? And I think when we ask that question is what leads us to a judgment, and leads us, I think, to getting frustrated and stuck. And one of the reasons that I think there's some value in actually putting together for yourself a process that allows some of that to not come into play. For example, my decision was yesterday when I put this together and was thinking about it, I says, I'm going to do this until December 31st. And I'm going to commit to it. And I know that some days I won't get to 10 and other days I might get more. I want to see the results of that effort. It sort of goes back to your scientific conversation yesterday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Bob was talking about the scientific model and the value that provides because of the process they follow. And I think
the documentation of the steps, so
correct.
Anyone can replicate it.
Correct. And so I think that allows, scientists to avoid some of the judgment statements or questions that would lead them to be even more frustrated, because they're like, okay, well, I'm going to plug out step 6 and plug in a new step 6 and see what that means. And now they can evaluate and say, wow, this is what it brought, this is what it didn't. And, obviously the challenges are that if you've got multiple steps, even if it's just 6, do you need to unplug 6 and 2 or unplug 3 and 1 or unplug them all? And I think that's an interesting thought to have a process. Mm-hmm. And what does that allow us to do? And what does maybe that keep us from is what I almost think is the most valuable thing. One of the things, I did a LinkedIn post yesterday and I was asking the question of how often do you recalibrate your efforts before you just move on? I think I said give up, which I was kind of intentional about that. And, the options were, I tried a couple of times, more than 10, and I never give up.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because a bunch of people responded, I never give up. And so, because me being me, I responded to them and say, you mean there's no reason in there that you can foresee where you would just say, you know what, things aren't going the way I had hoped, and I just need to do something completely different. And I think the person responded, fortunately, and was like, holy cow, I hadn't thought about that. We think about never giving up as a sign of commitment and whatever. And it can also be a sign of unwillingness to ever change and to see, and just feeling like, I know this is the way.
Are you talking to me, Tom?
I am not. I'm not.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm talking.
Well, it goes back to what I said in the opening, right? If you keep doing what you're doing, you'll keep getting what you're getting. Right? Maybe.
You might get less. And you might get more. It's
right.
There are, again, because the results are unknown and it's out of our control. And so at some point we just have to determine. And I think the one thing that happens is we get results and we judge. and we don't learn from them. And we say, I've been doing this for too long. I need to shift. Or I haven't been, it's been too short a time. I need to keep going. Because we haven't determined what we thought that was at the beginning. So that we could say, hey, you know what? I'm not thinking about it. Is this too long or too short? I've already said, I'm going to do this until then. And then I'm going to evaluate it. And I think that allows us to take some of that pressure of the judgment off of it and be like, I know it might not be going the way we had hoped right away, and we're going to keep doing it. And I also think it allows for the other side, which is you do something and, oh my gosh, everything is going like great and amazing. And then you just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And if you never take the time to stop and think, okay, maybe now it's a good time to reevaluate it, you might keep doing it until you get to that point where the point of no return. And now you're like, now it's not going that way. And I have no idea what to do next or why.
It occurs to me, Tom, as you were talking about talking to the 10 people, reaching out to 10 people a day, that's an arbitrary number. There isn't a proven method that you went and researched. And so when we think about these things, we often use arbitrary criteria. We set an arbitrary number like 10 sounds good. It's not 5, it's not 15. And then when we recalibrate, we have an opportunity. Maybe you reach out to 10 people a day and you get 3 interactions that are really valuable. Maybe if you talk to 5 people a day, you might get 3 interactions that are really valuable. Or maybe if you talk to 20 people, you might only get 1 because you're tired and it's a lot of effort. And there's a lot of gray area here that I think we often set as like legitimate. It's how it's got to be. Like when you and I were doing the ads, we talked about doing the social media ads. We set a dollar amount per day. We don't have any science behind that. That was just a number we were comfortable with. For all we know, adding 5 cents more a day would ramp that up completely, or taking away 5 cents could send it the other way. And I think so often we take these arbitrary criteria and think of them as gospel, and that gets in our way of recalibrating. Because I'm spending $10 a day on Facebook ads. That should work. Well, based on what? Based on Bob's view of the world, which I'm learning more and more isn't always the view of the world that everyone has. I know, it's a shock.
Yet I think there's intention behind it. And so I'm not sure I would use the word arbitrary. There's one of the benefits is by not thinking of it as arbitrary. What I believe is I made the decision to do that. We made the decision on the ads to do that based on the information that we had at the time. Based on the best decision we felt like we could make, taking all the factors that we knew inside. And I think the benefit is like once we made that decision, I haven't thought back on that decision because I've said, because I'm trying to get to the point of I'm not going to think about that fully until December 31st.
Okay.
Because I've made a commitment to this. And I don't know that it's the perfect number or the right number or whatever, just like with 10. 10 was a number that allowed me not to say, oh, hey, I had 3 great conversations with 5 people today. I guess I only need to make 5 calls a day or 5 outreaches a day. My decision was this is the number. I'm going to stick with it for a while. And then I'm going to stop and I'm going to measure, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago. You could go back a couple of weeks when we were talking about measuring your efforts or assessing. And so I think that's the one opportunity of not considering it. Is it arbitrary? Absolutely. And it's intentional.
It can be. It's not always. I think there are plenty of things that we do without intention.
And I would offer to say, think a little bit more about why you're making that choice. Like, why are you taking that next step? So for me, 10 was like, I think it's a little bit of a stretch for me because I've never done it. I've never done it before. So I'm making the best decision I can in the moment. And so it was intentional. It was like, okay, I thought about it. And and yes, it's a round number. And
Best or realist?
I'm sorry.
You
Oh,
said
that's
the best decision. A best decision or the real decision based on all that you know?
Honestly, I think at that time it was the best decision that I could make because I considered various things. Is it
Now my mind is blown. You've been avoiding the word best and worst so
Yeah, I
much.
know.
Now you're embracing it on something.
All right, so I'll go back to real. I think that's fair. I think it's fair.
Okay.
And I think that
it's a nuance, but I want to understand it because you were pretty clear that it was best. And I'm not trying to be a jerk with you. I'm just trying to understand truly.
No, I think that I think that's fair. And one of the things was about it. It wasn't, I mean, it was sort of looking back, but I believe in the moment. What I would believe in the moment is that was the decision that I made. And I felt like I gave an intentional effort to make that decision. And so in some regards, I think using that, I can't. It was what was real in the moment based on my knowledge, experience, and perspective. I'm going back to that.
And if you think about when we recalibrate when to do it, is when something different becomes real for us.
Yeah,
right? We have new knowledge, new experience, new perspective. Someone told us, I watched a video that explained how to use that software. Now I have new knowledge. I could say, oh, well, that's really nice. I enjoyed that video. Now let me get back to watching the baseball game. Or I could say, wow, now I have this tool. I know how to use it. I should probably build some time into my day to use this tool to achieve the results I'm looking for. It would be to not recalibrate at that point would be foolish, right?
Maybe.
It would almost be reckless, right? Because it's helping me achieve the goal that I set.
I guess here's the question I would ask. If that's the case, then I would say it could be reckless to do something that would not help you try to achieve your goal, almost like sabotage. And I think that
ding, ding, ding. I've got a master's degree in that. I'm working on my PhD.
And I think what's different about it is that you equated it to your goal. And, okay, this is something that may help me reach my goal. I'm going to recalibrate my efforts. My suggestion would be, okay, what are you eliminating to add that?
It's funny you say that. I did eliminate something.
Excellent.
Because I had the list of time that you and I allocated to things for me and walked through. And I was like, this is good. It's either I add time, which I didn't want to do, or I subtract from something else.
Yeah. So you're making a choice that you believed that this might be more beneficial. You prioritized this over something else. And I think those are some of the key things. I think so often we see that and be like, oh, if I just add this to my plate.
Right.
Which you could, you could choose to do that at a different time.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting conversation. And it just gets me back to there was an intention to make a decision about what was real at the moment. And on December 31st, I'll evaluate a couple of things to see if it's still real or if I have gained new knowledge, experience, and perspective that would have me recalibrate again. And I think that's maybe my one thing. I'm going to jump into that unless you were going to share.
Go ahead.
Is, I think that it can be easy to just change all the time. And sort of be like, oh, I'm just recalibrating my efforts and I'm doing it. And I would say,
well, you're never accountable, right? If you're constantly changing things, well, I tried this new thing, so if it doesn't work, you're off the hook. Or
I think you're not learning. You're not giving yourself the chance to learn because you're making a decision based on anecdotal evidence or judgments. And I think that's my one thing is that when to do it is not with anecdotal evidence or if you're making a judgment on things. That if you've actually taken the time to assess it, understand it, and think about what have you learned by doing it, then that is a good time to consider what you might do differently.
Okay, I like that. That's good. My one thing would be that I think deep in our gut, we know when it's time to recalibrate. And if that's not, if your gut doesn't talk to you the way it should or could, then I would say it's recalibration time when you get new knowledge, perspective, experience. When one or more of those things, when you go, wow, I didn't know that. If I knew that sooner, I might have. That's usually the signal to me that it's time to possibly consider something different. You know, we were talking about something before the program, something personal for me. And you said, you know, how is this different? And I explained to you how it was different, because that's a question. Otherwise, if you're doing the same thing over and over, you're going to get the same result, or the result's going to change and you're not going to know why. That's one of the other reasons why I think it's helpful to recalibrate is you kind of start to figure things out along the way. Like, oh, wow, if I reach out to 12 people, not 10, this starts to happen. And it also changes. That's the other thing. We always think that we do these things and they're going to work. You know, I remember a couple of years ago when I could do LinkedIn and use LinkedIn really powerfully, and it was a system and it was easy. I've tried that same system recently. Doesn't work the same way because LinkedIn's changed and people on LinkedIn's changed, people's times changed. Just like I do a lot of Zoom calls now. 3 years ago, if you said to someone, let's do a Zoom call, how many times were you on? It's like, okay, what's the button that I have to unmute myself with? I haven't had that discussion with someone in years, literally.
Yeah.
So it's all changing. We have covered a lot of ground today.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think anytime you're talking about change and why people make change, I think it's an area where people get stuck and frustrated and definitely overwhelmed. And I think even more than that, it's so easy to judge yourself. And I think that judgment doesn't provide a whole lot of value. And so I think that it's a significant topic. So with that, if you have thoughts or ideas you'd like to share around recalibrating your efforts and when to do it, we'd love to see it. Please feel free to put it in the comments. If you've been listening to our podcast today, thank you. And we know that there's no opportunity for you to share your thoughts and ideas there outside of yelling at the person on the treadmill next to you or in the car next door.
Or you could send it to a friend as a, hey, you should listen to this. These guys are real knuckleheads, and I can't believe they said this at minute 13. It's possible.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Or you could say, oh, wow, I found a lot of value in this, and I thought I would share it with you.
You could also rate us. A 5-star rating would share it with lots of other people.
That's correct. Anyhow, and if you would like to actually comment on it.
Anyhow, how can you say anyhow? Ratings are valuable. We could be the next Joe Rogan.
We could. Is that our goal?
I'm thinking of shaving my head just to get on that track.
All right. Okay. Well, and if you would like to comment and you're listening to the podcast, we would encourage you to, if you're a LinkedIn person, go to LinkedIn and join our Renegade Success Network for Leaders. Or if you're a Facebook person, go to Facebook and search for Ring of Renegades, where you can share your thoughts and ideas, because we'll be having conversations around that topic, this topic all week. And if you're really not a social media person, feel free to email Bob or I, or call us. Whoa. You can always call me because I'm looking for 10 people to have conversations with.
You make it. I just pictured Tom like at 3:30 p.m. I've only talked to 7 people. Someone please call me. Please call me. And the person from Verizon or Comcast calls and like having a long discussion with them. So what got you into this field? Where do you see the Comcast going in the next 5 years?
So actually, I only had 4 outreaches yesterday. I didn't judge it once. I haven't judged it once.
You got 16 to get through today.
No, I have 10 to do today.
So you're not. I like that.
What that? Because I made that decision with the information I had at the time.
Okay.
And that was my intent. My intent wasn't to do 50 calls in a week. My intent was to do 10 a day and see what that looked like, because I know every day is different and things will come up like they did yesterday.
And do they have to be calls, or could it be a interaction one-on-one? So you have a meeting this afternoon where you'll be around people that you're not around all the time. Wouldn't a discussion with one of those people qualify as a
maybe
contact?
It would depend on the discussion.
Okay. Well, but you could control that, right?
Half of it, yeah. I could institute it.
Touche.
Just like sending somebody an email or
Right.
a direct message is that I can control that part of it.
So and are you doing this mostly by email and like LinkedIn, or are you actually getting on the phone and calling people?
I'm not a big caller just as a outreach. I don't mind calling afterwards. I just find that people don't pick up the phone. So I'll text them, email, direct message with an opportunity that, hey, I'd like to. So somebody got a new opportunity, somebody I've known for a long time yesterday, and they posted about that. And so I direct message them and say, hey, I'd love to connect and catch up. I'd love to hear about this new opportunity.
Okay.
So
I find calling and then not leaving a message and texting can be really, people are like, ooh, I saw you called and then you text and say, hey, I was just trying to catch up with you. I had something I wanted to discuss with you. They'll call you back.
Fair enough. That's an option to consider.
That's right.
Throw that into
your mix
box.
All right.
Okay, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate your paying attention, focusing, and we hope that we're adding value to.
No, we know we're adding value. Something had to resonate.
I think that's an assumption, and that's okay. We added value to the world. We put it out there.
We are the world, as Michael Jackson sang so many years ago.
Well, he was one of many singers.
He was. Can you name them all?
No.
Bet you I could get 20 in less than a minute. Go on.
All right.
Ross.
So that's going to be your challenge for today, to go do a video.
Lionel Richie. Madonna.
Anyhow, thanks, everyone, for being with us today. We hope that you have a great day.
George Michael. Please embrace the renegading you. And if you know all the people who performed on the We Are the World videos so many years ago, please put them in the comments and let me see how many I get right.
Fair enough.
We are the world. We are the people.
Go out and make it a great day.
Indeed.
We'll see you inside our groups, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. See you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.